All right, bringing Arnab back. Arnab, when you see nearly $1 billion flow out of U.S. Bitcoin ETFs, but inflows in Europe and Australia, in Asia, what's your read on that rotation? What does that really mean? Is this a healthy global rebalancing or signs of U.S. traders taking profits too soon? What do you think's going on?
I think this cycle has been very interesting, right? Because I think we are kind of breaking this 4-year cycle that we always talk about in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And this Bitcoin ETF, if you've seen, this has drastically changed the market. From a bigger picture, I think we always get lost in the smaller picture. The big picture is it's 150 billion AUM product, right? The Bitcoin ETFs, and it's one of the largest ETF segment in the world. And I think what is the market, if you see also global macro, right? The people are trying to, take some profits out, readjust arrangements in the market and all these things. And I think the current price correction, which you see around 104,000, it's not as big. And I think the market is, and Bitcoin shows quite a lot of resilience in the market, right? What I see kind of bigger picture is in the last couple of weeks, definitely there are some outflows, but the wider picture, the net inflows is much more higher. And I also will be very careful to come to conclusion that institutional interest is going out of Bitcoin. Definitely it's not the case. And I would say it's kind of some guys are trying to take out some profits. We have global macro uncertainty. So it's just, I think, I would say, a blip in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, this market, this cycle has been different as we are seeing a lot of the Bitcoin change hands, right? It's going from those retail investors that have been hodling oftentimes for a very long time and they're finally ready to cash out because life happens and you need money. And then it's going right into hands of these institutional investors that we expect to buy and hold for the long term, which is certainly changing the foundation of Bitcoin's ecosystem in a different way than we hadn't seen previously. And with these kinds of ETF outflows that we've seen, do you think they actually impact Bitcoin's price in the short term? Or are we just kind of watching sentiment slosh between regions like a wave pool right now? Because there are a lot of interesting macro factors at play that are clearly having an effect on the market.
I think definitely this is kind of, I would say, seasonal factors, right? We have all the tariff-related uncertainties. We have I think there is a huge market discussion going on around the global equity market to go down around 10%, right? That's a big impact, right, for the entire segment, right? But if you see the Bitcoin still kind of holding around 100K price, it's 104K, it's amazing, right? And for I still have the laser eye picture on my profile, and we believe the Bitcoin to go to 100K for a long time, and still in this uncertainty market, the Bitcoin is still at 104. So this is fantastic, I would say. So I think institutional adoption, as you rightly mentioned, these guys are not going to leave Bitcoin in a short term. I think in the shorter time frame, these guys are still there. And we are seeing a lot of pension funds, institutions. There's a very interesting development that happened in Europe from Luxembourg, effectively. The Luxembourgish government fund is effectively buying Bitcoin, which is quite interesting, right? So I think this institutional development will be quite key. And in the next couple of months, I'm expecting more and more larger public institutions are coming and buying Bitcoin, and not only the Bitcoin treasury like MicroStrategy, 21, BSTR, and all these guys are accumulating kind of buying a BTC in the market, but I will see more and more pension funds, state funds are trying to buy Bitcoin because, Bitcoin is a hurdle rate.
Yeah, it is. And, I think right now people are freaking out like, hey, this was supposed to be, October and Q4, but really, we got to kind of pull back a little, and we're seeing all this money change hands. We're seeing crazy macro factors that in the past would have probably tanked Bitcoin's price in a way that's not even close to what we're seeing now. I mean, this trade war with China is still on the tip of everyone's tongue, despite the lip service we've been getting from the government recently. We have the United States government's been in a shutdown for 34 days now. There's just so many other bigger factors at play that I think are affecting the price negatively right now. But really, I think it's shown a lot of resilience considering all of the macro chaos we've been seeing in the meantime. And as maybe part of a result of that, we're seeing Solana ETFs just pull in $400 million in a week. Do you see that as genuine diversification by institutions, or is that just short-term hype chasing the altcoin of the month right now? Because all of a sudden, Solana seems to be the darling of the ball, but this feels like altcoin chasing to me. What do you think?
Yeah, the thing is that with Solana, the market is too small, right? So any movements can be a concerted effort. I'm not saying it is, but there is a high likelihood. But if you see the holders of Bitcoin and compared to when the market moves, because we remember the FTX saga for Solana, right? One large player falls and Solana kind of is nearly wiped out, right? So this kind of altcoins have very less resilience, I would say, in the market, right, compared to Bitcoin. So definitely, some guys will go in. There's opportunistic trades they can make in, but for a longer time horizon, for kind of gold-like store of value asset, I think Bitcoin is undeniable the alternative asset. And this is an asset that is, it's growing. It's a 1 trillion plus AUM, and this is growing. And I think more and more, I think the dollar coming in institutional capital, this is an asset class that will compete with real estate, gold, and likes of those kind of asset classes.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be trending in that direction. And Arnab, since Stoker is based in Europe, are you seeing more interest from European funds or family offices using tokenized or ETF style exposure to accumulate Bitcoin right now? Like, what is that looking like to you on your end of the pond?
I think, to be honest, the US is still leading the entire discussion of Bitcoin adoption, institutional level. But I think what I just mentioned about Luxembourg, it's a very interesting news. You see also in French Parliament and few other jurisdictions in Europe, they're talking very seriously in the political level to include Bitcoin in some policy discussion. And I think one of the Europe's opportunity right now that we have is Europe is struggling to have energy infrastructure, right? Energy infrastructure will be key for if you talk about AI or any growth in terms of civilization, right? And Bitcoin has the opportunity, or I would say capability, to support that creation of energy infrastructure. And this is what I think Europe need to really see a little bit wider and progressive way, that using the energy infrastructure and mining, and that will be effectively for a state's way to accumulate more Bitcoin, right? Because there are a lot of energy infrastructure that is still not connected to the grid, and how you can connect those infrastructures with the mining operations, and effectively those Bitcoin mined can be a part of the treasury. That's a very interesting way to issue a bit bond or likes of them. But I still see the lack of such kind of discussions. So I think Europe is more at the moment concerned about issuing state stable coins and the Euro CBDCs. But I think there are some parliamentarians or some politicians that are really understanding the value of Bitcoin and effectively putting it as a treasury asset. And I think more and more discussion, I'm hoping that it will go in that direction.